Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Meredith, one of the PFAFF educators. I'm going to give everybody a second to come on in and get settled down. I'm excited to have you here today. We're going to be going over all things twin needles and ways that you can use twin needles to elevate the sewing that you're already doing and add some new little techniques that you may not use already. You probably know about most of them, but that you may not use that often. And so I just wanted to bring a highlight to twin needles again. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that along the way, feel free to type those in the chat. Ryan and Amy, shout out to Ryan and Amy, the people who make all this happen and make sure everything works well. They are in the background. They will send me those questions. If we don't know the answers to it, we will figure it out and come back and answer them afterwards. But feel free to just type those in along the way. I think that's about it. We're going to get going here. So twin needles. There's lots of different types of twin needles, just like there are with universal needles, or not universal, but like single needles. There's denim, there's embroidery, there's wing. There's so many different types of needles. Well, there's the same with twin needles. But there's even more actually, because there's different widths to twin needles. So there's 2.0 millimeters all the way up to, I want to say, what do we have in our machine? I'm using a 4, all the way up to 8. So it goes from 1.6 to 8.0. So many different sizes of twin needles. But then on top of that, you have embroidery, you have denim, you have, there's a wing twin needle. There's so many different types of twin needles. So I'm going to go through a couple of them today in ways that you can use them and hopefully inspire you to want to do that. So first off, let's go through setting up your machine for a twin needle. You are going to have 2 threads because you have 2 needles, but you only have 1 bobbin. So the bobbin setup is the same way that you're used to. But with the threads, you're going to use 2 threads, 2 spools of thread. If you have a Creative Icon 2 or any of the machines that have 2 spool stands, all of the machines mostly have 2 spool stands, but the 2 stand-up ones on the icons and things like that, those are what you're going to use. I was using my 720 to do some of my samples the other day, and I have a spool stand that sits off to the side. So I had 1 threaded on there and 1 threaded on the machine. Yes, there's one that stands up, but I don't know. I just like the way it flowed better that way. So you're going to use 2 threads. Also, what you want to be mindful of is when you're threading them, the only 2 things really that you need to worry about is you have the little tension disc when you are threading your machine and you come down before you come back up. There's that little, when your presser foot's up, there's that little wiggly piece up there. You want to make sure that you have your thread, 1 thread on one side of it and 1 thread on the other side of it. It doesn't matter which thread goes on either side, and it doesn't matter what side they're on to what hole they go in on the needle as well. So you just want to make sure that there's a thread on either side of that little, I call it wobbly, the tension wobbly disc up there when your presser foot's up. The rest of it's the same besides when you thread your needle. So let's switch over here. I'm going to switch to this camera here. And I'm going to use, if you do not have one of these magnifying lens sets, I would strongly suggest getting one. It makes such a difference. There's 3 different magnifications to it. I'm using the second highest magnification, but you can tell already there's a huge difference in that. So when you insert the needle, it's going to be the same as what we're used to. It's got the flat back on it, and that's going to go in the back. So I'm going to put that in there and then just tighten that, finger tighten that in. So then I've got my 2 threads here, and I'm going to thread 1 on either side. Again, when you're threading it, it doesn't matter which one goes into which side. You cannot use your needle threader. We're so spoiled with our needle threaders that you cannot use your needle threader with the twin needle. So you got to old school lick and stick to get it in there. So I'm going to get this guy right in there. And I am using rayon thread today. I just like the little finer look that it gives you. You can use cotton thread. Amy told me at the beginning she's used silk thread before. It's really your preference with what kind of look you're wanting to go for. But I'm just using rayon thread today for what I'm showing you. So that's how that connects in there. And then we're going to go through just a couple basic stitches and what that looks like. So you can see. Put this guy on there. And then we'll switch to a couple other things. So I've got that set on here. Let me get my other camera over here set up real quick. Give me just a second here. And then I will show you my screen and some of the stitches you can do. Feel free to just try some of them out. There's always lots of different options, things like that you can do. So let me get this going here and I'll switch over for you. There. Hold on one second. Sorry, y'all. There we go. Okay. So let's go back. We're going to go back to utility and we're just going to do a straight stitch. Let me also show you, I already have it set up for a twin needle, but I want to show you where that's at in your settings. So if you go up to the gear right up there, under sewing and embroidery, you're going to have the option to select a twin needle. So you can turn it off or you can choose whatever size you have. So I have in right now a 2.0. So I'm going to select 2.0 right there. I'm going to do a 4.0 later. So I would select that one. And the same for embroidery. You have the option to select a twin needle when you are embroidering. And I'm going to show you, we're not going to go too much into embroidery with twin needles today, but I do have a little something to show you with that in a little bit. So that's how you change your settings there. And you'll notice also, now I have two lines. I have a single straight stitch selected. Let me actually just deselect that so y'all can see that. So I have my twin needle off right now, and I've got one line right there, just a straight stitch. But, oh, wrong one. When you go and you select a 2.0, there's my 2 stitches now. So my 2 needles, 2 stitches right there. So let's do just a basic zigzag. And you can already see you've got 2 stitches there as well as you go. So let's switch over here and we're going to do a little bit of that. You get my fabric. I've got it already all lined up too. I would suggest using a friction pen or a chalk marker or anything like that. Mark some straight lines that you can use as your guide as you're going. So we're going to put this, let me move this out of the way for a second because it's at an angle on me and straight for you guys, but I need to start setting up. So there we go. So I have just a zigzag stitch selected. Oh, and I want to put stabilizer on this too, y'all. When you are doing decorative stitches, you definitely want to add stabilizer to the back. So we're just going to add, and stabilizer again, all depends on what type of fabric you're sewing on. So I'm just sewing on a cotton today. So I just have a tear away on there. You could use a wash away, any non-permanent stabilizer you could use. And you could use a regular permanent stabilizer too. So let's get this guy going here. I'm not going to do too much of it, but I want to do a couple of them on here so you can sort of see what they look like. And it adds a whole new element to your stitching, your decorative stitching that you can do. So let's cut that and I'll show you that one. So right there, look at that. That wide zigzag stitch has 2 stitches on there. Very cool. Let's pick another one. Let's see. Coming over to my machine. Let's go over to, I'll let y'all see where I'm looking. Let's go look in decorative, see what we have. Let's do this little, oh, that one doesn't want me to use a twin needle. So look at that. It's going to tell you, please remove twin needle and turn off twin needle settings before selecting the stitch. So your machine can tell you, hey, that's probably not a good stitch to be using a twin needle on. So we will take that one out. And part of that is you can only make your stitches go so wide. And when you have a twin needle selected, it won't let your width of your stitch get any wider if you have the correct twin needle selected. Does that make sense? So if I tell my machine I've got a twin needle 2.0 selected, my width, I cannot make it. It will probably yell at me. It won't let me go any wider than that. But I bet I could go up to a 9mm on a normal zigzag stitch. So I love that it's got that little fail safe in there for us. So let's go over here. Let's see. Let's try. Well, let me do this one. Let's do this heart here, and we'll do a little double heart. So, and I have 2 of the same color threads on my, and this one, it wants me to deselect or turn the IDT off because this is a back and forward motion stitch. So I have 2 of the same color threads selected or threaded in my machine here. You could definitely use 2 different colors of threads, 2 different shades of pink or just completely different colors. You could use a red and a blue color, you know, completely change it up. Let's do a couple of those and I'll show you those. Pull this guy back in here so you can see the difference. These things are a lifesaver. I do not have the best eyes, and I use my Magnifying Lens Set often. I'm going to hold it at this angle so y'all can see it, because if I let it go straight where it's straight for me, y'all can't really see what's going on there. So let's finish that stitch there, and I'll show you that one. Any questions or anything so far? We're just going to keep going along here, but look at that. A little double heart there. You can see that it's layered, and it gives a whole new effect to it. I love that. And it kind of looks like a little outlined heart. I like that. That's cool. Okay, so let's switch to more of how you can use twin needles with different feet as well. So the majority of when you're going to use a twin needle is with pintucks, not just decorative stitching. So there are a couple different feet you can use. There is the 5 groove, and Amy has listed them up in the top in the description area. She's got a couple of the feet listed that I'm using. So it says, when stitching on a quilted item, do you need stabilizer? It really depends. If it's a full quilted layer of like the top part of your quilt, the batting and the backing, it really just depends on how thick your batting and stuff like that is. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. It never hurts to use it. And when you're doing quilting, if you're going through all the layers, you can use a wash away so that when you wash it, all of that stabilizer will disappear. For what I'm using, I'm just doing a cotton, so I'm using a tearaway. You could use a tear and wash. You could use, I have a tearaway light over here. I have a stitch and ditch, which is like a really thin one. Lots of different options. It really just depends on the fabric and what it is you're doing. So I hope that answers that question. So there's a 5 groove foot here. This guy here. See if you can see 5 groove foot. And then there's also, where did I put it? This is the, I want to make sure I say it right, the Pintuck with decorative guide foot. So we're going to go through both of these today. And then you also need to have, you don't need to have it, but I'm going to show you how it adds a different look to your Pintucks with a twin needle, is the Pintuck guide as well. And this is separate from the foot. So those are the 3 things that Amy has listed in the top, as well as the Magnifying Lens Set. So visit your local dealer. They should have all of these in stock. And if not, I'm sure they'd be happy to order it for you to purchase it as well. So let's go through just normal Pintucks now. So I'm just going to put on the 5 groove foot. I'll take this one off here. I'm going to put the 5 groove on. And again, I'm going to show you a couple different ways that it's going to look, and making some adjustments and things like that as well to give you a different look. So I'm going to switch. And with this, you're not going to use stabilizer. If you use stabilizer, it won't give you that like raised up Pintuck look that we're going for. So I'm going to switch back. And I see a couple questions. Let me switch back my stitch here. So it says, should you avoid a fusible stabilizer? Yeah. For Pintucks, yes, because when you have a fusible one, that gives you more bulk and you may not get that full effect of a Pintuck. For decorative stitching, if you're using a twin needle to do decorative stitching, you can use a fusible. It really all just depends on what your final project is that you're doing. I am trying to think, if I'm putting it inside of something, you can add that fusible no-show mesh to the back of your fabric to give you the decorative, to use the decorative stitches and use that stabilizer, and then it can just stay in there. That's fine as well. If you're doing something where you're going to see the back of it, I wouldn't use a fusible necessarily. Again, it just depends on where you're going to see it. If it's a garment and it's on the inside, you could do it. If it's on the cuff or the edge where you might see it, I might not. It really just depends on what you're doing. Is the magnifying lens an icon only accessory? No. Amy, can you help me out with what machines can use it? The Creative Icon 2, I know it's going to be, it's not many, but it's a few of the other, there it is. So Creative Icon 1 and 2 and the Performance Icon can use the Magnifying Lens Set. So it's a great little tool. It just hooks right up in there and you can leave it on your machine all the time. I'll show you. it swings back and forth just like that. And this comes off easily right here. There's a magnet in the end of it and it magnetizes in there. There's 3 different magnifications. It comes in a fancy little box. So I love this guy here. And so this can stay on all the time and be out of the way, or you can just wheel it over and slide it back and forth just like that. So any other questions on that so far? We'll switch over to Pintucks here. All right. If there are, feel free to just type those in there. So with Pintucks, when you start out, you want to have a guideline to be sewing on. And then after that, you'll just line up your Pintuck in with each of the grooves. So I've got a couple guidelines on here. I'm going to do this first one, and I am using embroidery thread. I'm going to do it a couple different ways so you guys can see. I do not have the Pintuck guide in now. I want you to see the difference that it makes when you have the guide on versus off. So I have my length. I'm going to lower my length down to 1.5. It's automatically set at 2.5 when I have a straight stitch selected. I'll show you here. So I have a straight stitch selected, 2.5. I'm going to lower that to that. And then I'm actually going to lower my tension just a little bit there. And you can play with that. Don't be afraid to play with tension. I know some people, it makes them anxious to do that, but if you move it, you can always put it back. It's not going to hurt to do that. So let's do this here. Let's straight line. And yep, that's not all. Okay. My machine was asking me or recommending that I don't have my IET engaged. And so I was just double checking that was not engaged. So I'm just going to go straight along here. And again, I don't have the Pintuck guide in place. So I'm just doing a flat line one here. We're going to cut that. So there's your little Pintuck, and it's a little teeny tiny because again, I'm only using 2.0 millimeter twin needles. So then what you're going to do, you're going to move that Pintuck you just did into one of the grooves on either the left or the right. Let me move this back around so y'all can see. On either the left or the right. So, and I love that you can use the presser foot down button to raise it up a little bit to make those adjustments versus having it all the way up. So utilize that when you're making those minor adjustments there. So we're going to just do another one here. And again, I am just doing side by side, no Pintuck guide. I'm going to do a couple of these so you can really see the effect that it gives over time when you add all of these up and accumulate them all. So there's 2. Look at that right there. We're going to do one more. And it's just adjusting that guide over. And you don't have to do the one right beside it. You could even go over 2. So let's go over one more. And then you could leave a little space. And that's really going to come into play when we use the Pintuck Foot with the decorative stitch guide. We're going to leave space between them so that we can add in some decorative stitching in there. So there you go. That is, again, a 2.0 millimeter needle and just a straight stitch without the guide. So let's add the little guide in now. And that's going to connect right in these little holes. We use these little holes for so many things, from the quilt binder attachment to the circular attachment. We're also going to use it for this Pintuck guide. It's just going to fit right in there like that. I don't know if you can see that. And what it's going to do is it's basically going to enhance those Pintucks a little bit more. And I'm going to do these sort of close together so you can see the difference on them. I'm going to leave a little bit of a groove between them. So these are my regular ones over here. I'm going to do one more so you can really see that it's raised up. all my threads out of the way here. Always start with your threads under your foot. Back that way so they're out of the way. Let's do one more here. I'm sure you can already see these two right here don't have the guide, and this one does, and it's more elevated and enhanced. Give me 1 second and I'll show them a little bit closer up for you. So here we go. So these bottom two were the ones without the guide, and then the top two are with it. You can tell that they're raised up a little bit more. They're a little bit more enhanced and more prevalent, that you've got that Pintuck there. So that right there alone gives you such a huge difference. So we're going to switch out our needle, and I want to show you with a wider needle here. Give me just a second. I'm putting my needle back in its case, because if not, it's going to end up on the ground, and then I will end up stepping on it, and you know how that ends. That does not end well. Let's see. Okay. We're going to use now, this is a 4.0 twin needle. Get my two threads here and rethread them. Are y'all following good? Is this all making sense? I had a friend, I was telling her what I was doing today, and she's like, oh my gosh, that sounds so scary. And I said, no, it's not. She's like, one needle sounds scary to me, let alone two. I said, no, it's not. The machine is just sewing with two needles instead of one, but it's still doing the same thing that you would do with a single needle. It's just giving you a different look. I said, don't be scared at all. I hope she's watching, and she heard me say that. So there we go. So I've got a wider there. So I'm going to go to my machine and switch over here to a 4.0 right there. Hit OK. It looks like I've got a question. Is it okay to use the thread cutter with the twin needle? Yes. So I've actually thought about that too, because I am, what's the word I'm thinking of? I am guilty of using the thread cutter with the circular attachment. I know when I did a live on it not long ago, Amy was probably yelling at me every time I wanted to hit that thread cutter. I have not had any issues. I don't think the prongs of the thread guide go low enough that I've watched it. It doesn't go low enough to come over and hit them underneath the thread cutter. So I think it's okay. If I'm wrong, please, I'm sure one of the other educators will slap me on the hand later and say, hey, no, don't do that. But I haven't had any issues, and it cuts the thread just fine. So no issues there. Let's switch back over here. Are twin needles brand specific? No, they're not. So there are many different other brands that you can use. So if you go into your store and they don't have the width that you're looking for or the type you're looking for, you can definitely use another brand. That's fine to use it as well. The main thing is making sure that when you're using, I keep hitting that book and not the gear, is that you are selecting the millimeter width of the twin needle. That's going to be the biggest thing that you have to make sure you do, because your machine doesn't know that you're using a twin needle unless you tell it you're using a twin needle. So, all right, let's come back over here. So I'm going to take this little guide off, because again, I want you to see the difference in twin needles with the guide, or the Pintucks with it and without it. So let's do one here. I'm going to start a brush over here. And so the first ones we did were teeny tiny little guys. And now we're going to get more of a pronounced Pintuck, more of a tunnel with our tuck than we had before. So like that. Let me move these guys a little bit closer so you can see. Let's see if I can. Hold on a second. So you get a higher little, see if it helps to see it there. You get more of a tuck with the 4 millimeter than you do. So it really just depends on the look you're going for. If you want it to be more pronounced or more discreet, just whatever you're going for is what you're going to choose. And when you do this, we're going to do another one here. right there, just one more guide over. But what I've noticed is that if I go one more, I'm going to do it so you can see. So I just moved my Pintuck one over like I had done with the smaller ones over here. But to me, it starts to stitch. I had issues of it stitching into this groove that I already had. And I'm going to show you that here. So when I do the larger Pintucks, I actually move the first one over 2 slots versus just 1. So let me show you. You see how it catches it right in there? And that's not really the look we're going for there. So if we scoot it over, let me do another one here. Give that a second. I'm looking at it at an angle, trying to get my line lined up with the magnifying glasses. Because I've got an angle so y'all can see it. And then if I move this over 2 grooves, so I've got 1 groove in the middle, 1, 2. So I'm going to scoot this over 1 extra. It's not going to get caught and give me a weird little look that this one did. So play with it. This is definitely something that I would suggest doing on some practice fabric before you do it on whatever it is you're going to be sewing. Just like that. And now look at that. Now you have space between them the way we did over here. And it looks good and clean. And you've got some nice little Pintucks there. Love that. So next what we're going to do is I'm going to add in the little Pintuck guide. We'll see what a difference that makes. I'm going to do 2 off of these. There we go. I think with this one, those 2 that I did are actually pretty well enhanced Pintucks on their own. So we'll see if it makes a huge difference. Not too much of a difference. I don't think it's too much of a difference, but it definitely does when you are doing these smaller ones over here. So just play with it, see what kind of look you like. I had some fabric swatches of all of this, of all of my little tests that I was doing and doing them different measurements apart and all of that type of thing. So just play around with it, see what you get, and go with it from that way. So we have another foot also that is the decorative guide foot here, this one. And so this helps you add in, I've got a little sample here I'm going to show you. This helps you add in some decorative stitching into your Pintucks or whatever it is you're using with your twin needle. So if you look here, I did a couple Pintucks and then I have this little guide for guiding these Pintucks along and then doing some decorative stitching in between them. So we're going to do a little bit of that now. So, but I'm going to do it with this. I'm going to finish my Pintucks. What I found is that it works to have all of your Pintucks done first. Like don't try and do your 2 Pintucks, then your decorative stitching, and then your next 2 Pintucks. Do the 2 Pintucks, do the next 2, and then do the decorative stitching between it. And you're not switching between your needles because you're going to switch between needles. It's single needle versus a twin needle. And it just gives it more of a guide to go along. It's helpful. What type of thread do you recommend and bobbin thread too? So I'm using embroidery thread for what I'm doing here today. I like more of that dainty fine look. It's really up to you what you want to use. You can use cotton thread. Amy said she used silk thread at the beginning of the live when I was talking with her about it. So, but right now I have embroidery thread on both of my needles and then embroidery thread in the bobbin as well. For like heirloom, most of the time Pintucks are done with heirloom sewing. You want a really fine, dainty look, and I feel like embroidery thread is good for that in that way. So let me get a drink here. It's warm here today. I live outside of Dallas, and We had an unusually warm winter this year, so I'm a little toasty today. So let's switch over here. So with the decorative guide foot, I'm going to take this foot off and I'm going to use this one here. And what we're going to do, you can use it on either side. I love that. And it's a multi-use foot here. You can use it on either side. What we're going to do, I want to add more to this side over here, my right side. So I'm going to put the guide on the left side of my foot, on the left side like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my last channel pintuck that I did with this little groove right here. That little groove right there that's in here. And then that's going to give me a good distance between them to then be able to go back and do decorative stitching in there. So I'm going to line this up real quick. There we go, like that. And so this space that's in here, it's going to do another pin tuck now, and then that space in between is where I'm going to put my decorative stitching at here in a minute. So I love that I only have to draw one line, and then I can just go off of that for everything. Love that. So just like that. And now that's the space that I'm going to be doing my decorative stitching in. But I'm going to do one more. I'm going to switch this out so you can really see what it's going to look like when it's done. I'm going to do another, because we have time, we're going to do another pin tuck on the side here. But it's easy just to switch out. It's easy to switch out the feet. I don't want to say it's easy to switch out. I mean, it's not difficult to switch out needles, but it's more time consuming. And I want to work smarter, not harder. So we're going to do all of our pin tucks that we can at once before we switch our needles. So I've got a couple pin tucks here, and now we're going to do our decorative stitching in the middle of that. So we're going to switch our needle first back to an embroidery needle, and we're only going to use one. I had a needle out, there it is. We're only going to use one thread. So I'm going to rethread this here. This is a great time if you have questions while I'm switching this out, and I can answer those as we go. All right, so I've got one thread here, and now I can use my handy dandy needle threader. Oh, and look, I'm going to show you what it told me. So I go to hit my needle threader, and it tells me your automatic needle threader cannot be used when you have a twin needle selected. I wish that I could select. Remember I told you I'm guilty of hitting the thread cutter with the circular attachment. I wish I could tell my machine I was using the circular attachment, and then it wouldn't let me hit that thread cutter. That's something that I need to recommend to the R&D team, y'all. So we're going to switch back over here, and we're going to change from our twin needle. We're going to turn that off now, just like that. And now if I hit my thread, my needle threader, I bet it'll thread it. Look at that. Now it worked. Love that. Love that it has that built-in little safety flaw there. So when you're doing the decorative stitches, it doesn't matter what side the foot is on here, because we're going to guide our pin tucks in these two channels that are here on the sides. You've got two, you've got the one over here, and then you've got the two on either side of the foot. So we're going to guide those in there, and we're going to use stabilizer now as well, because we're doing a decorative stitch. So I'm going to, got some, what did I call this earlier? Stitch and ditch stabilizer underneath there. It's a thinner weight stabilizer under there. And I've got my two pin tucks in those channels right there, and I'm just going to do my decorative stitch right along there. So can you, I see a question, can you use twin needle for decorative stitching between pin tucks? You can. I have not tried that. I think you can. I don't think you can necessarily use, we might, let's, you know what? Let's try it. Let's, because the ones that I did were all, where did I put my thing I was showing y'all earlier? I just had it. Where did it go? Oh, it's in, y'all, it's in my lap. So this heart one that we did right here, let's try. Let's go back, because I was going to do this heart for our regular decorative stitch. Let's go back and do this heart. I don't know the width, if the twin needle is going to be too wide to go between here. So let's find out. So we're going to take that needle out. And I'm going to switch to, I'm going to put in the smaller twin needle versus the 4 millimeter. I really think this one's too wide to do decorative stitching in this little bitty channel here. So let's do it with the smaller one, and I think we might have better success. That's a great question. Let's try it out. All right. Now y'all get to watch me thread these. Come on. Oh, put that there. When I was working up my little script for this live, I had to like factor in 10 minutes at least for the amount of threading and needle changing I was going to be doing, because you have to do it by hand. This is another great time to be using your Magnifying Lens Set for threading it as well, so you can see it a little bit better. So again, when you thread it, you want to make sure, what side did I put that thread on? I put it on the right side. So I'm going to put my thread on the left side of the tension. You can't see it. I just don't have a camera for that. On the left side of that tension guide there. And make sure our foot's up when we're threading as well, so that it gets in the tension. And then we can put our foot down to thread it. It makes it a lot easier. And this one's going to go, cut this here. This one's going to go on the right side. And what I found also when I'm threading the two needles is once I get it through the eye of the needle, I will put my finger, loop it in there so that it doesn't get twisted around. Have you ever had where that thread, as you're pulling it through, gets looped around your needle and you have to pull it out and start over again? So I found that if I just sort of hold that thread out, that helps. So I'm going to come back over here. Let me show you what I'm doing. I'm going to tell my machine again, I'm using a 2.0 twin needle. And we're going to come back over here to this heart under miscellaneous, number 8 here. There we go. Let's see how wide it goes. And switch back here. This one might be okay. Do a couple of them. Yeah, seeing this one come through, and I'm not sure that a 4 millimeter, I think it would be too wide and it would cut into your pintucks. Let me finish this one here. Cut that and see what that looks like. Oh, what did I do? Oh, I didn't let it feed, y'all. That does not look good. Let's do that again. I don't like that. Let's try again. Again, this is key point of you want to make sure that you're testing these stitches out. So you see what it's doing? It's trying to push back. I'm going to show this to you. It's trying to, when it comes back, you see that, how it puckers in on itself there? I think that's what it's doing. So if I'm going to do this one more here, and then I'll go back to a single needle and show you that it works better with a single needle. Let's see. Yeah, because it did that same thing where it's trying to push back and it can't there. So we're going to make another channel here to do some more sewing. Let me take this stabilizer off the back here. I'm going to keep my twin needle on. Got all these threads. Let me get all these threads out of the way here from my starting and stopping. So I had a customer a long time ago who would cut her threads and then throw them over her shoulder like people do with salt. And she's like, it's good luck. Have you all ever done that before? cut your threads and just throw them over your shoulder for good luck. Not sure I believe that, but you know, it's fun in the moment. So, make sure I'm not going to lose my threads here. Get them under our foot. There we go. So let's make another channel here. Oh, I still have it set as my heart. That won't work. Let me come back to my straight stitch here. And this channel I'm making is going to be a little bit smaller because I remember I was doing 4.0. I was using that 4.0 twin needle on the other side. And on this one, I have my 2.0 on right now. So they're going to be a little bit smaller, but that's okay for what we're doing. It's the distance that matters between the stitching. Okay, so there's that there. Let me take that up too. And I'm going to switch this back to a single needle. I hope that makes sense of why I don't think it would work with the twin needle. And I may practice that a little bit more because that's a great suggestion. Somebody said, so the distance between the tuck and the decorative stitch is set and not adjustable with the foot. Correct. You, with this foot, let me show you. With this foot, you only have this space in here. I'm trying to think, because you really want to use these grooves that you have to do a pin tuck. And so that would be the space. What are you thinking about wanting to do with it being a little bit wider maybe? Is that what you're asking? Give me a suggestion or a scenario of when you would want to do that. So let's put this back on here and put our single needle in. I'm going to go back and select our heart because I know I've done the heart and it's been successful. Again, get all these little threads out of the way here. So we're again going to put our 2 pin tucks in those little guides right there. And I'm going to come back over here on my machine and select this heart right here. And I'm going to change my needle setting. I'm going to take my twin needle off. Click OK. Okay. Let me get some stabilizer behind there. And I know this also because I'll show you. Let me get this set back up here. On your machine, right there, that little paper looking icon, that means you want to have stabilizer recommended. So, all right. There you go. And you see how it's not puckering back up in there? And the only thing I can think of is that it has something to do with the twin needle. You see how it's smoothly, it's gliding a lot smoother back and forth as it does that. So big difference there. But that was a great question. And I appreciate that question and getting to test that out live with y'all. So I didn't go all the way down because I want to show you something else here. So there would be how it would be with, see if that makes a difference there, with your 2 pin tucks and then your decorative stitching. But I want to show you something because I think sometimes we forget about these things as well. You can go into Stitch Creator down here at the bottom. I'm pointing down here at the bottom right here. We're going to hit Stitch Creator. And I'm going to select that heart stitch again. So that was under, come on, oh, miscellaneous. Number, it's 6.1.8 right there. And then, oh, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted. Never mind. I'm doing the wrong thing. We want to go into, yeah, this one. Did I click the wrong one? Let me see. Hold on a second, y'all. Is it this one? I'm forgetting now. Where did I have that at? Amy, help me out here. What am I? Maybe I was in the right spot. Let me see. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, Amy. But I'm not. Why was it not under there? I thought that's where it was. Why am I missing it? Okay, see on my other, so full disclosure, y'all, when I was doing my samples, I was doing it on my 720. So in Stitch Creator, I just haven't done it on this one today. In Stitch Creator, let me show you here. If you go, and on the 720, it's already on the screen. That's why I'm like, where is it? It should be on the screen. You go to Edit Stitch right here, and then 3 times. So we have just a single stitch. That first one that we did, thank you, Amy, again. That's just a single stitch that it's doing there. But if you want that to be more enhanced and more pronounced, we're going to make it a triple stitch. So that little 3 times right there. So now it's going to go over it 3 times. So we're going to hit OK. And I'm going to do a couple more of those. And you can see it's a lot thicker on here too. I hope you can tell the difference. I'm just going to switch back and forth between a regular one. You see that's a little bit lighter. It's not as thick and bold. So if we go back to Stitch Creator, go back over here, select our heart, edit stitch. I was thinking it was going to be right over here and it wasn't. And then make that bold. So watch when I come back here. It's a lot bolder there. So let's go back. And I'm going to add a little bit more, a couple more of those hearts on here so you can see the difference. That just adding a triple stitch versus a single stitch makes a big difference. These stitches take a little bit longer to stitch out because they are a triple stitch. So don't force it to move. Just let it do its thing and make sure it's progressing as it goes. I'm going to get a couple of them on here for you, and it's number 2. I don't think I let it go back as much as I should have, but I've got another sample I'll show you here. Yeah, that one I didn't let it. You see how they didn't connect right there? So I wasn't letting it go back enough, but I have one where I did a triple that I can show you. So this, actually the one on my sample, that one is a triple, I know for sure. So let me switch here. So this right there, that's going to be your triple one right there. And it's a little bit bolder and thicker, and I like the look of it. It around those pintucks too. So love that can add that little bit of extra. Is there a way to have the hearts with a point at the bottom? And yes, so let me show you. So that's an easy trick to change. So if you go down here to edit stitch, we are going to go right here. These 2 little icons right here. This is going to flip it one way or the other, and I'll show you that. This isn't a good stitch for that. But if I want to flip it or mirror it side to side, right there. You see that? It flips it. Watch it right here. So that's how you would do that. This icon, the other one, let me find something. Let me do this one. If I switch to this and say I want those hearts to go the other way, now they're going to go upside down. So that's what the other icon is there. Great question. Any other questions there? So I just wanted to show you all this. I know Valentine's Day is next week. I know some people celebrate it, some people don't. That's okay. It's just another excuse for me to decorate my house and be festive, and that's what my kids love. So I made just a decorative heart pillow, but I wanted to add in some more. I love this endless design that we have in the MySonnet software. I extended it out a little bit, and then I wanted to just add something to the top of it. I didn't want just a rectangle pillow. I wanted more of a square pillow. So I added in those pintucks in the top and the bottom as well, like that. And then I added in piping and made a little pillow for it. Have you used twin needles with different colors in each needle while doing a satin stitch? Yes, I will show you that now. That's a great, we've got a little bit of time, so that's a great question. I'll show it to you now. Let me switch back over here. We're going to take this guy off and put our regular foot on there. And I'm going to switch my needle. Let's do the finer one. Actually, let's do the wider one. So this is the 4.0 millimeter wide twin needle. And I'm going to switch my threads out here. The one I have, excuse me, the one I have in there now is a blue. Let me get this guy out of the way. So let's thread him. And then I'll put a purple in the other side so you can see the difference. So again, I just sort of hold that thread out so it doesn't get wrapped around itself and you have to start all over again. So let me add on a purple thread here. And I've got another thing because you can also embroider, machine embroider with a twin needle. And so I have a little sample of that I was going to show you too. We didn't get too much into embroidery with twin needles today, but I did want to be able to show you something for it. So, Amy, would you mind, since we're getting close to the end, would you mind sending me our next live information for my Sonnet and for PFAFF, the next one this month? Thank you. So I've got 2 different colors there now, and I'm going to, let me get another piece of fabric and another piece of stabilizer. Get that one out of the way. So I've got some stabilizer back here and just some other lines drawn. So you asked for, let me see, they asked for while doing a satin stitch. So let me show you. I'm going to come back over here. First, I'm going to tell my machine I'm using a twin needle. So I'm using a 4.0 for this. I have that selected. You won't let me. It's not going to let, hold on. Because of the stitch I have selected. So let me come back over here to utility, straight stitch. And now I bet it'll let me switch the needle. 4.0, yep, there it goes. Again, your machine's so smart. We are going to choose, let me see where they are. I'm walking around this camera, sorry. Satin right there. There we are. I knew there was a category. So where are, let's do this one. There we are. Let's choose, no, that's not what I want. Oh, see, it won't let me choose that satin stitch there. But if I, let me choose this one here. But let me go back. I wonder if I select a satin stitch here and do this one and then make my width a little bit, oh, that's not what I want, my length a little bit closer together like that. I can't go any closer than 2.5 there. And I can't go any wider than a 5.0 because of where the needles are. It won't let me, that'll put me out of my space. Yep, thank you, Amy. I was hoping that I could do it with a regular satin stitch first, but it wouldn't let me. So you can makeshift one in here. That's not going to be a complete satin stitch. I don't know if you can tell. Let me see if I zoom in a little bit. It's more of a zigzag, not a satin there. So let's see. Amy said try this one too. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Let's try that and see. So if I get my, I don't know that I want them that close together. Let's see what that gives me first. So I have menu 1.1 and I've got 12 selected. You could choose 8 and do it that way as well. So let's see what this one looks like. And I have 2 different color threads on here. Oh, my thread, my tail is in the way there. So we want him out of the way. There we go. Let's start that again. He was looping in my threads. All right, let's try that there. When you're doing a twin needle decorative stitch, I would not suggest going at full speed. I sort of just, I'm not going super fast, I'm not going super slow. I just like to find a good middle of the road to go there. So let's show you that one. So there you go. There is a 2-color satin stitch, and it gives you 2 sets of stitching with only doing one row of stitching. It does take a little bit longer because you are doing 2 at the same time, but it's still, you get 2 rows at once. That's a great suggestion. Any other questions or suggestions on that? I wanted to show you though this. So with twin needles in the My Sewnet software, there's actually some different stitches for twin needles, for felting. What was the other one? There was another one. Amy, what is in the software under that category? I'm forgetting right now. I forget. Wing. Thank you. There's wing needle ones also. So you can do different fonts with different types of needles. So if you haven't ever tried those, try those out. So this is a twin needle with 2 different colors. And then I added in, so I did this in the software, twin needles with that font. And then in the machine, I added in this decorative stitch and told it I was doing a twin needle, and it did all of that embroidery. So I hope y'all can see the difference there in 2 needles. So, but yes, there's so many different things you can do with twin needles, not just with regular decorative stitching. There's different feet you can use with them. So I hope that you found some inspiration in this live to do your next project, whether that's for Valentine's Day or anything coming up where you can just add in twin needles and different decorative stitches and things like that. So our next, let me tell you, our next My Sewnet Live is next Wednesday. It's Valentine's Day, February 14th at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific time. It's with Mickey, and I'm super excited, y'all. If you have not been over to the My Sewnet page and looked under the events, she is doing creating buffalo plaid with the My Sewnet software. It is so cool, some of the things she's going to be doing. It was something that she and I talked about a couple months ago, and she's like, I think she was kind of intimidated by it a little bit, but it turned out really neat. So I hope that you can join her next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. On the My Sewnet page, there's already an event for it. So if you click that you're interested in it or going to it, it will give you a reminder in your feed the day of, right before, hey, this live is coming up. Like I had one today for my live because I hit that I was going to it. So it reminded me of that. So that's the way to do it. But if you do happen to miss them, you can find them under the video section on Facebook or on YouTube. You can watch them. They're always going to be there. You can watch them later or watch them if you haven't watched them at all there. And then our next PFAFF Live, this is super exciting. I know that y'all love this lady. On February 22nd, it's a Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific time. Nadine, one of our ambassadors, is going to be doing our Facebook Live on that day. She's going to be doing inspiring you with a lesson on everything closures on your screen and in the hoop. So I think it'll be great. I know our PFAFF audience loves Nadine, and she is definitely very inspiring. So we hope you can join there. Again, if you happen to miss it, you can go back and watch them later or any of the past ones. So if there's not any other questions, again, thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this and left with some inspiration, and feel free to share your pictures with us of things you've created in the past or things that you might be creating coming up. We love to see what others are creating to be inspired by you as well. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.